Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily. We are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Thomas H. Johnson volume, and we turn now to 702, A First Mute Coming. Now, this is an amazing poem. Emily's playing with the King James Bible, the King James Version of the Bible she was raised with. And she's very interested in the passage of Genesis 19, the famous Lot passage and Lot's wife's passage. Now, to read this poem, it makes sense that we remind ourselves of this story. Let's enjoy the language of the King James Bible in the same way that Emily enjoyed it. Genesis 19. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they say, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned it unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the men from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him. And he said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have two daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only to these men do nothing, for therefore they came under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came into sojourn, and he will needs be a judge, nor will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-laws. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy two daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it's a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments where we commented on the power, the importance of the King James Version of the Bible. Many scholars pointing out There is no single more important read for Emily in her life than the King James Version of the Bible, and here Genesis 19 in this account will be significant in our reading of this poem. I'm also hopeful that you've already read through the previous 701 poems. We just finished with 701, A Thought Went Up. And if you have done that reading, then you know that Emily often will make allusions or references to the biblical text. And here she will she'll assume that you already know, with the one mention of Lot, what's going on. But let's point out that she waits until the very end of the poem to tell us at all what she's talking about. Let's enjoy the poem. A first mute coming in the stranger's house, a first fair going when the bells rejoice, a first exchange of what hath mingled been for Lot, exhibited to faith alone. Now, it is, I think, interesting that this poem will not tell us what it's actually about until the word Lot is used. And of course, if you don't know the biblical story of Genesis 19, this poem is going to be challenging for you to interpret or read. Notice the word mute. In other words, when these men show up as angels, they don't say very much. They are, in fact, a coming and a going, if you see it. A first mute coming in the stranger's house. Notice stranger capitalized, house capitalized. Obviously, the Genesis 19 story makes sense. In other words, the angels here in the first two lines visit Lot. First fair going. And it is interesting, this use of the word fair, because the question of the Sodom and Gomorrah story is it fair for all of these people to be destroyed? A fair, first fair going when the bells rejoice. And of course, this is Lot being led by the angels out of the city. Then to the second stanza, we're back to a first. Notice it's repeated 3 times. A first exchange, dash, of what hath mingled, dash, been, dash. Now, this use of the word mingled, you'll remember from 576 and 663, the other 2 times she uses it. In other words, this bringing together. Emily, I think, is playing with all kinds of interpretive levels of the story when she uses this word mingled, and then she'll say it. Because, again, to this point, we're not sure what she's talking about, and then she'll drop the hammer. For Lot, dash, exhibited to faith, dash, alone, dash. And then it hits us. Oh, she's talking about the Genesis 19 passage. You'll maybe remember that in the Hebrews 13:2 passage, be kind to strangers because they can be angels in disguise. You'll maybe remember. Of course, Christ himself said in Luke 17:32, you'll remember Lot's wife. He was talking about, not to be distracted by the quote-unquote things of the world. And I think the point of this poem is the word faith, used in 48 of her poems. But notice the last word of the poem is alone. That is to say, no one else but Lot himself, in fact, was a believer, willing to obey. Of course, Lot's wife turning to a pillar of salt. Now, what are we going to say about a poem like this? Many, by the way, have read this poem as symbolic of Emily's struggle, her solitude, her solitary struggle to be the poet and the artist that she was. She's the only one who is able to leave and not look back, if you will. At 2a, I think, though, the point here is that faith for Emily is often a very private affair, as is artistry, as is inspiration. At 2b, I would challenge you to think about the tone of this poem. How do you read this poem? Do you read it as sad? Do you read it as almost unattached? It's almost a very matter-of-fact kind of tone. Did you notice this? And notice Lot's wife is specifically not mentioned, but rather the fact that Lot survives the experience alone. Finally, of course, at 3a, well, obviously the Genesis 19 passage comes to mind. I can't help but think of the coming and the going at the conclusion of Milton's Paradise Lost. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net, but you'll remember that hand in hand, Adam and Eve will leave paradise at the end of Milton's classic, unlike Lot, who of course has to go on his journey alone. Finally, at 3b, what was a time for you when you exhibited to faith alone and you had to believe in something all by yourself? Thank you.